and welcome to the Stateside Soccer Show. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and I was just reading this tweet from John Arnold that says the vice president of Suriname is 60 years old playing in the Concacaf League against Olympia tonight, captaining the team he owns, Pure Concacaf. And just like Pure Concacaf is a man who's with me today, Logan Gonzalez.
My hairline looks like it's been through CONCACAF a couple of times. For all those auditory listeners, that's the same thing. For all the auditory people, you can just picture a 30-year-old man almost with the hairline of like a 50-year-old.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. That's perfect. Perfect explanation.
It's really going from the top too. It's kind of sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fading like Orlando's playoff hopes.
I don't. You know what though? I still think they're okay. I think they'll get to the playoffs. They may not make any damage there, but I think they'll get there. But maybe that title push that they were hoping by keeping this squad together is no longer going to be possible. But you never know. Anything can happen in the playoffs. Before we get to the results from the midweek and weekend, we actually have to talk about a few big news stories. So one, Luchi Gonzalez relieved of his duties at FC Dallas. So we'll start with this. He, was at one point the academy director, working with the academy there. He became a manager for FC Dallas. It's his third year as a head coach there. They were in the playoffs in 2019 and 2020. They sit 11th in the West right now, 7 points out of the postseason. They haven't won in 4 games. Is this the right move, Logan?
I guess it's better than selling all your youth. I don't know. I think with Dallas, I think it's a matter of that. They just don't have a team. I mean, what are they really building there, right? We talked about this with Dan early on when we did the preview, when we previewed FC Dallas, and we said, is this, and you asked a great question, is this team sustainable? Can you sustain success while still selling all your youth players and talent? And the answer looks like it's going to be no. I think, they had been good there for years where, they had held on to some of the players, but now it's like every time they've got a chance to flip some players, they do it. Tanner Tessman's now gone, who had an ability to be probably one of the top players in this league, especially in the defensive midfield. And now he's going to go play in Italy, and they were quick to sell on that. Guys like Chris Richards being sold, it just seems like whenever FC Dallas has a chance to sell, they're going to sell. And Luchi has become part of the reason why they think that this team has not been successful. And honestly, I don't think it's fair.
I think it's fair results-wise, okay? I think what he did for the academy doesn't mean makes him a good coach for the senior team. I can honestly say that. But I think that this is a performative measure from the Hunts because I don't think they're going to assemble a team no matter who the manager is. They're going to run the team the same way they're running it now. So ultimately, it doesn't matter who the coach is. I don't think. Look, Brian Reynolds became an FC Dallas player late last year, and he already got shipped out right after Reggie Cannon, right? And now he's not even playing at Roma. He's probably going to have to leave Roma because Jose took over, and he wants to play other players there. So they're selling him, but they're not even finding the best fit for these players. Reggie Cannon has barely played for Boa Vista because they're having problems there. He's trying to get out of Boa Vista. Boa Vista's not being able to make their payments. It's a mess. So while they can say we're exporting these players, they haven't really, established themselves in the league, these players. Reggie Cannon did, but, now he's kind of stuck in this club situation. And now, like you said, Tanner Tessman barely played for them before he gets out of there. Last year was his first year, right? It wasn't...
Yeah, and he got maybe spot starts this year.
Yeah, but... I don't know. They have to put together we talked about this, like you said on the previous show. They've got to put together an actual squad to compete. that was the best thing that they had when they had Oscar Pereira.
Yeah.
They had the youth, but they also had squad members that were competing and going to make a difference. They just don't have that. But I think this is a performative thing for the Hunts to say, look, we're doing something. We don't like the way we're going, so we're going to fire him. But I think we see this another 2 years from now with whoever they replace him with. I hope I'm wrong, because I think when you look at the Texas Derby and it's in Houston and there's barely any fans there, and when you turn on an FC Dallas game and there's barely any fans there, and those are the two biggest markets in Texas, which is a huge market in the USA, one of the biggest states, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we can't even get fans there. People will always say it's stadium location, it's 30 minutes outside of downtown, whatever. That's BS. Yeah. I was just at Citizens Bank Park for Phillies versus Orioles, and guess what? They had tons of people there, not super crowded, right? But a midweek game, and that you can see the city way off in the distance. That is not in the city proper at all. And that has their football stadium, it has their hockey and basketball arena. The only thing not there is the Union. And the Union are even further south, and they can still fill that stadium up at times. So I don't think it has anything to do with location. I mean, people said the same thing for Chicago when it was at Bridgeview, but I don't think they've been selling out Soldier Field either. Of course, they're not playing well, so that could be why. But I don't know. I think you got to fix it. And I feel sorry for Luchi Gonzalez because he did so much work for Dallas, but just because you're also a good academy, or building good youth, doesn't mean you're getting the results. And I think it is a results-oriented business, but I do wonder where this is actually coming from that FC Dallas front office, because I do think that, again, book it right now, 2 to 3 years from now, whoever they replace them with is probably getting fired for these same sort of results because they're not putting any money in the team.
Jordan just dug a grave for the next FC Dallas. Jordan has a good tendency to do that, where he's just digging a grave and naturally the team just puts somebody in it. But no, I think another big concern too, when you talk about FC Dallas, if you want to stay in that same vein too, is Ricardo Pepi, an 18-year-old striker who's just bursted onto the scene and now
linked with Bayern now.
Right, linked with Bayern, linked with a lot of the European teams that are going to want a striker come January, because that's when MLS will be done. They'll think, hey, that'll be a good time to get this young kid over here and into the system of playing there, and that'd be great for him to trying to learn the system and playing with the U.S. men's national team. He seems to burst onto the scenes as one of those guys that'll be an option for the number 9 when World Cup comes around for next fall. But again, in mentioning that, I just want to be, aware. I want fans to be aware of the fact of there's systems that we just don't want players in, and I think FC Dallas has become one of those systems. They just don't have stability. Their players are going to leave, and it's a matter of where does FC Dallas send them, and is it for the right situation, or is it because they're just getting a lot of money in return?
FC Dallas, if they get rid of Pepi, okay, that's 12 goals you're losing. Who's going to score? They've only scored 38 this season.
Oprian is the only other one. He's got 8 goals, but he's really
and people don't even want him playing. They don't. He's getting goals, but he's not doing well other than that. But I mean,
Jesus Ferreira.
I mean, probably Ferreira. But
you want to play with that again? I mean,
where
that's not
is
really
Pepi? If Pepi goes, you're losing 12 goals right there from a young kid that's only going to get better. He's going to score more than that. And I get it for him. Pepi, it's best to leave at some point.
Yeah.
But who are you going to replace him with? I guess they could have people in their academy that are young strikers, but
they most definitely do. They're just going to sell them before they get there.
Yeah, that's the issue, right? So you're funneling all this talent. So what it's almost like if you were building another baseball analogy here. If you were building a baseball team and you had all these prospects in AAA and you end up selling them, trading them before they reach the big leagues, and you just end up with a whole bunch of 4A guys.
Yeah. And I think another part of
that's what it feels like.
Yeah, and the other part of the problem is FC Dallas isn't matching that selling with buying and players incoming, because I feel like their players that are incoming. Obrian was one that they added over the transfer window before the season, and it's not like he's been crucial in any part of their plans. He's played okay, but it's not like it's a star player that they're selling this youthful player that could become a thing for 2 years, and then they could sell him then. I don't know. FC Dallas is a mess, and it's going to continue, I think.
All right, let's move on from that because we got some bigger news to cover, actually. We got a bomb dropped on us. They kind of gave us the heads up, I think, yesterday that they were going to make this announcement for CONCACAF at 4 o'clock Eastern time on Tuesday, and that's the day we're recording this. The Leagues Cup, Logan. The Leagues Cup, which Seattle is in the final of tomorrow night, Wednesday, at 10 o'clock. And Atlanta had won the Leagues Cup in 2019, I believe. Or was that the Campeones Cup? We'll have to check that. But anyway, let me just check who won the Leagues Cup in 2019. Cruz Azul. Okay. That was the first one, I think, too, was the league. Yeah. So, and they faced off Tigres in the final. So, okay. So it wasn't... it was the Campeones Cup that I was thinking about that Atlanta won. But Seattle is in the final for this one. They are going to be playing... I've lost it. Oh, Club Leon on ESPN2 Leagues Cup final. But guess what? They are changing the format of the Leagues Cup for like the third straight year. Okay. So this should be fun, though. I'm really excited for this. Let me know what your thoughts are. We'll talk about it in detail. But in 2023, all MLS and all Liga MX clubs are going to be participating in the Leagues Cup. We're actually going to pause the regular season in the late summer and do a World Cup style tournament between these clubs. What's your initial thoughts on that?
So my initial thoughts, and I know it got ones from this side of the scale to this side of the scale as far as reactions. I was really happy, and I know you and I talked about it. It's exciting because they're pausing the MLS season, so it's not like these are simultaneously going on with MLS games, so you're going to have to like balance the workload. It's going to pause it for a month. It's going to put it into this tournament where, U.S. teams are getting to play Liga MX teams, and I think, going back and forth between those two leagues, you're going to see a lot of really good talent. And I think it'll be really good for a lot of our younger players, especially when you're talking about World Cup qualifying, when you're talking about the U.S. players having to play Mexican teams. And a lot of those Mexican teams are a lot of those Mexican players in Liga MX are on the Mexican national team that we're going to see quite often. So I think I love it for just the reason of it's going to be, one, entertaining. Two, it's going to be a whole month, which is really cool. Three, it's going to be all the MLS teams. So everybody's invited, everybody's included. Anybody can win it, which is a really cool matter. So if you've got like a stretch of a month where you're playing really well, I mean, this tournament could see a new winner for years without having a repeat winner, which I think is really exciting for the clubs. I think it's really exciting for both of these leagues. And the fact that they're all pausing to go play in this one league kind of thing, it's kind of like that merger they've already talked about before. And I think you're going to see where it works, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And the entertainment value is just going to be off the charts. So I'm pumped for it. And I know we'll get into more detail, but those are kind of the things that I'm looking forward to just off the top.
Yeah, I think I agree largely with what you had said there, because I think, like you said, one, it's great that we are going to be doing this with all clubs.
Mm-hmm.
That is a big thing, because one of my worries about the Union, right, when they got knocked out of this Champions League is, okay, when's the next time you're making the Champions League?
Yeah.
Your only ways of getting there right now are US Open Cup, Supporter Shield, MLS Cup, and runner-up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think that's all of them.
Yeah, that's 4.
So how are you getting there? The Union are not going to be able to get there consistently with the way that their business model is and the way that they're set up to run. And the only way these teams in our country get better is by playing against better competition year in, year out. How do you do that? Well, if you didn't, what I liked about the Leagues Cup is the 2020 edition. The Union qualified for that because they weren't good enough to get in the Champions League. So I liked that originally of like, okay, well, if you don't qualify, kind of like if you don't qualify for the Champions League, you get the Europa League. Mm-hmm. So you're still getting some sort of European experience, in this case, continental experience, before you, and you can keep getting that experience. Well, now we're going to get that with all of the MLS clubs. So yes, even Austin, even FC Cincinnati, even Charlotte, who we don't know how they're going to be, are going to get games where they're able to, where they're able to play against Cruz Azul or Club America, Club Leon, even a lower Mexican team. The fact that they're able to pause it too, all eyes are going to be on this. We will hopefully not get the Leagues Cup Kansas City side that goes out there and plays 15-year-olds and says, we're not taking this any seriously. Yeah. There's no reason not to take this seriously now, because you have the whole, probably 3 weeks, 4 weeks off to challenge for it. Now, there are still some issues of, are teams going to be able to, actually get a chance to win this? Does FC Cincinnati actually stand a chance to win this? Are they actually going to put money and resources into the team? So we still have to figure that out of, is MLS going to expand some of its rosters stuff? Because if they don't, Liga MX probably wins this most of the time.
Yeah.
But the main thing is they're going to be able to play against these better teams all the time now. And it should raise – this is perfect for U.S. men's team.
Yeah, huge.
Are you kidding me? The young kids, like Pepe, if he was here when this was still going on, he's probably going to be gone by then. But a player like Pepe coming up in the system now has a chance to play against the biggest clubs in the region. Because even let's say you qualify for however this works out, if you're in a group and qualify for it and you have extra group games and you're fielding because you already qualified, you're like, oh, put the kids out there now because we already made it through.
Yeah.
That's great. Those kids are going to learn against really great teams. And I mean, I think it's great overall. And I think, like you said about the merger aspect, this is the best version of that. I do not really want an actual merger between these.
This is perfect.
Between these leagues. So having just a month off tournament like this is perfect for me. And I think it's going to work really well. Now, again, you still probably will get some teams that end up not taking it that seriously, but you're hoping that it will there's no reason not to take it seriously, one, because of the month off, but also there's 3 Champions League spots at stake.
Yeah.
3. The winner, which automatically gets you to the round of 16. The second place earns the CCL qualification, and third place earns CCL qualification. That's just great news. And I think that's exactly what we need. Now, how does this work with US Open Cup? We have no idea yet how that's going to factor into that. But, man, I'm excited for it. I'm thinking a World Cup style tournament that I can just watch every summer, featuring MLS teams, and maybe I can go, it's going to be hosted in the USA and Canada, they said. So if that means I'm going to be able to go up to not Talon Energy Stadium, whatever they call it now, Subaru Park, and watch the Union take on a quality Mexican side, that's going to be great. I mean, I just think this is great. I've seen some people poo-poo the idea, saying it makes Champions League worthless. Maybe for MLS and Mexican teams, but I think I would still want to win CCL. The reason why is because you're still going to get people saying an MLS team has not won CCL. So I still think that is important to win that. But if you can beat a Mexican team in the Leagues Cup to get there, I think you'll see the progress continue.
Your coaching pool gets better. Your development of young coaches will get better. You'll see, I I think kind of like a March Madness of of soccer, which is really cool if you're a U.S. Fan and you like watching March Madness in college. I think a lot of people will watch it. West Coast, East Coast, it's going to get great TV viewership because anytime we play Mexico, I feel like we get great TV viewership on Fox.
That's another big thing.
The revenue that it brings in, the young players that we're going to be able to find in Mexico, because a lot of those young Mexican teams where we might be able to go, hey, we're going to pluck off some of the young Mexican players that are playing on some of these teams. That increases our value. There's a lot of Mexican Americans, or Americans that are Mexican. So, being able to establish that dual citizenship, I think this elevates, they're like, oh, well, I went and saw Colorado Rapids play, and I can be a citizen of U.S. and Mexico, but I want to play for the U.S. teams because that's kind of cool and exciting. I think this is just overall a win for the whole region. It's going to make Canada more enticing too. I think what North America has done in Central America, what they've done is they're like, you know what? Let's get together and let's be competitive like Europe, like South America, like these big world powers in football. The only way to do that, let's make each other better. And I think this is the way that you do it. And there's a lot of resources in this, a lot of viewership, a lot of European teams will be watching, a lot of the South American teams will be watching. Overall, I think it's a really good thing for the sport.
Like you said, what we're seeing, this is part of CONCACAF coming together, but also, like you said, those three countries, Canada, USA, Mexico, that came together to put a bid in for the World Cup in 2026.
Yep.
That said, hey, we want the game here again, and it wasn't going to be given to just the U.S. because of politics, FIFA politics, all that kind of stuff. So being able to say, hey, let's come together because this is going to benefit all three of our countries if we host a World Cup. And then now coming together and saying, hey, Mexico's the most watched league in the U.S. MLS is having lots of money that Mexico wants. Canada is along for the ride with the U.S. Mexico, like in MLS. They have MLS teams.
Yeah.
So then them getting together again and saying, let's do a Leagues Cup that's more involved and let's get it officially sanctioned by CONCACAF this time. You know how big this can be?
Massive.
Mexico teams draw so well with fans. They draw well over on TV. And like you said, that now, like, if they live in Philadelphia and they're like, they don't know the Union that well, but then they see a Club Leon versus Union, and they're like, hey, I'm a Club Leon fan, but I live in Philadelphia, so in MLS season, I can follow the Union.
Yep.
I can go to games at Subaru Park. It's close to me. It's nice. You might have some stuff like that. Yeah. Right. If they're young, yeah. I mean, so that kind of stuff, I think, will no doubt help the growth of the soccer in this country. And I think it gets more mainstream appeal too. We'll have to see if ESPN sticks with the Leagues Cup or how that's going to work with 2023. But if they present it well and they present it like it's a big deal, it can be taken as a big deal.
Yeah. CBS will be all over this.
CBS will too. Yeah, Paramount Plus is like, line me up.
Concacaf Champions
All right, Greg. But yeah, I mean, this is, I don't know. I think I can't rave enough about it, honestly. I am really excited for 2023 now because I'm just imagining late summer and August, spending my nights watching these games on ESPN or wherever they are. And if they are on ESPN, try to get some of those games on ABC or something. I mean, I don't know, like, get it out there, man.
July and August are a really slow time for baseball.
There's no NBA during that time.
No NFL, nothing to compete with. And that's what they said was a big thing here. July, especially, is huge because July is a dead time for most sports, all of them pretty much. They said at middle of July into the middle of August is perfect. You've got families on vacation from school. You've got, families going to games. I can go to Orlando and watch one of the Liga MX teams play Cincinnati or something. Like, I can just go. I'm getting chills just thinking about how cool it could be just to go and watch this. And this is right on the heels of 2022, which will be a World Cup, hopefully for, appearance for us, and maybe Mexico, where we can all go after this. And then boom, we're on showcase again, getting ready to ramp up for the next World Cup qualifying for the next 2 or 3 years. And then boom, the U.S. World Cup. So,
and let's not forget too, we just teamed up with Liga MX for the All-Star game.
Yep.
So like this is something that they are no doubt doing. They're building this relationship to help each other out. And I think that is what is ultimately going to help grow the sport in this country, and not just the sport, but the MLS. Like the fact is, yes, you used to be able to have these friendlies where Chelsea comes over and plays Philly and they win 7-0. But with it being tied to the most watched league, and the thing is that it's actually meaningful competition now. It's not friendlies. These are not glorified friendlies now. This is a competition that's officially sanctioned now that is going to mean something. And that is what we need. We need more of this type of stuff. I'm always one for more cups, more competitions, because I feel like we don't have a lot of them over here. And can we get FIFA on board? Can FIFA, since they have Liga MX and MLS in their game, can they make a Leagues Cup in there? Because they don't have the Champions League in that.
Not yet.
But can they give us the Leagues Cup? Because I think that could help too. Because sometimes if you play an MLS campaign, there's nothing to do. You have your league, and you have a few Open Cup rounds, and that's it. So
we get a lot of steam with the Mexican sides, and you got and they said another interesting thing to kind of just throw in the wrench in a couple of years down the road, obviously, because it's just a baby growing, with the Canadian Premier League being a possibility to have a couple teams show up. So it's like, if something like that happens, then the trio is massive. Like then it's a massive tournament, and then it becomes very much like Champions League. So it's our version, I think, Jordan, of the Champions League, all combined into 1 month, where Champions League has to spread it out, which kind of sometimes takes the allure of it away. This is great. I mean, this is like sole focus.
Imagine if the Champions League was like UEFA Champions League was played over a summer like a World Cup.
Great.
That would be great.
Yeah. It would be your Super League, which they might even adopt. Like they might try to look over here and go, hey, that's actually pretty cool. I know they've got a lot more like cups and things they've got to worry about too. But
I don't know how they would do it with World Cups and Euros and stuff. That's where it'll get.
Yeah, that's where this one will be interesting but I'm assuming on World Cup years it'll just
if they play it late July and August, the World Cup's already over.
Yeah. So
I think that'll be good.
Yeah. And the windows too, I think, is another thing. I guess we can talk about some of the cons because somebody is going to mention it. A couple of the cons were scheduling with MLS. Do you have to push the year back or up to where they'd be playing in February? Nobody wants to play in Philadelphia in February. Do they do that? Is there going to be, like you said, a collision with the U.S. Open Cup? Is there going to be collisions with like Gold Cup and the rest of the tournaments that take place in those off years where they don't have the World Cup? Is there going to be World Cup issues? So there's a lot to iron out. But I think what the MLS in Mexico did was brilliant. Is like you said, Jordan, July and August seem like a sweet spot because there's just nothing going on at this point. Even World Cups aren't really going on this late into the summer when they do happen.
Do we need? I know this is stupid. They'll probably never roll back how many games they have. Do we need 34? Can it be 30 games?
Can it be 30,
we can cut 4 games off the schedule. You're getting those 4 games with the Leagues Cup or whatever. Like, I don't know. I doubt they would want to lose the gate money and the TV money from that. So I don't know if that would work. But we just kind of drew a line at 34 and said, yeah, good enough. Like it doesn't have any significance. It's not like the leagues overseas where they play 38 because there's 20 in a thing and you have to play each team twice. Like,
yeah, we don't have that.
We just kind of made up 34 and said, it looks good enough.
Yeah, it'll be, I mean, all of it's going to be logistics, I think. But I think if anybody could figure it out, I think the MLS, if you compare it to our counterparts over there in Europe, I think we do a much better job on normal years of avoiding that congestion. So I think a little bit of congestion here will be worth it for that month of soccer.
Yeah. So they did make some more changes to the Champions League. So they changed the Champions League in 2023, and they did this regionalized thing.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's ending in 2024. 2024, they have a new model that they're going with. All right.
That was the pre-plan.
Yeah, it's the Hawks' ex-wife niece story. Yeah. There you go. That's the new model. This new model is no more regionalized. What they're doing is those regional competitions or regional things are getting their own cups. They're getting a Caribbean Cup. They're getting a cup in where are the other locations at? I'm trying to. This press release doesn't have it that I have up here. A Central America Cup, a Caribbean Cup, and then include the League's Cup, and you pretty much got the North American Cup.
Yeah.
So they all tie in to what they're doing here, and then those winners and like runners up of those cups will qualify for the Champions League. So you get round one, which are single knockouts of 32 teams that are going to go into a round of 16. Or round one has actually 22 teams, it looks like. And then you're going to go to 16 teams, and then you're going to go into regular knockouts after that. And big news, the biggest news, it culminates in a one-off final on a weekend.
Not on a Monday. Yeah, not on a Monday, which is another big thing. Like I like all the scheduling that they're doing. It's like right up my alley because one, weekends are much better for me as a teacher. Two, the July-August timeframe they've given. Like if it's July-August, I'll be able to see most of those games before I start school. So they really had me in consideration when they were going to the table and talking about all these things. But
again, they listened to the show. They were like, we got to get Logan some more comps.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like that's exactly what happened. But again, I think, adding these competitions, adding these cups, because people were worried about what this was going to do to teams that are in the smaller, like the Caribbean islands and stuff like that, just because they think that the CCL spots are just naturally going to replace all of these island spots. But I think what's ultimately going to happen is they're just trying to make it bigger. I think that's ultimately what they're going to do because Champions League and Europe is huge. I think, what are we up to? 40 teams or something like that? 46?
In Champions League?
Yeah, in UEFA.
I don't know. I don't think it's that much.
I don't know how many it is.
It's usually 32. It's usually a group of 32.
I think it's growing in it, like 38 or.
Oh, they might be. They're expanding it, aren't they?
Yeah.
Next year.
So, but I think we want to get to that stage. I think we want to be up there where this Champions League gets legs and has room to grow, and maybe it does change to where other clubs are getting thrown in, or some spots are deemed more worthy of other leagues and things like that. But I think CONCACAF is trying to establish itself as one of the premier regions in the world. And to do this, they're going to have to make some changes. And adding more of these American markets or these Mexican markets will eventually down the road help some of these Caribbean teams that are really struggling, because I think that it'll pump money into CONCACAF, and then CONCACAF can give it to them or distribute however it is with TV rights. This is a huge, huge win, I think, on all parts, CCL and Liga MX and MLS and, the CONCACAF region itself, U.S. men's national team.
And it's right, like you said, it's right in time for the World Cup in 2026. So when people start looking, like if they don't get into soccer till 2026, and then they turn and look at what's our Champions League look like? What does MLS or Liga MX look like? This stuff will have been running for 2 to 3 years at that point, and they'll be able to hopefully draw even more people into it, and it just continues from there. That's the goal.
This has me pumped. I'm
pumped, yeah.
Wanting to fast forward to
bring it on.
It'll be so much to cover. It's going to be a great month here on this show, because it'll just be a lot of fun to cover. And plus, I'll get to learn a lot about Mexico that I just don't know enough about yet.
Well, actually, I'll be able to know about the lower level Mexican teams. I mean, I know about Club America and Club Leon and Santos Laguna, Monterrey, Tigres, but that all teams are going to be in it is pretty fun. It's good for those lower Mexican teams as well.
A+. Nice job, CONCACAF. You made it even weirder.
Now, the only downside is that it's only in the U.S.
Yeah. But again,
because they're not going to get that. It's just like how we talked about the Nations League and the Gold Cup, how these U.S. players only don't play in the hostile environments.
Yes.
But it's better than nothing.
Yeah, I think
it's better than playing against empty Houston Stadium every time.
Yeah, it's better for the US teams, it's better for MLS. However, I think that there's stadiums everywhere where they can give, they can do like the one-off. So Austin, Texas, for instance, I know we've got a lot of the Mexican conglomerates, or like they're in that area where a bunch of the Mexican groups live. In California, it's the same case. So like, especially in like California, where they can use like the Rose Bowl or wherever they might use different football stadiums. And yes, they're not soccer specific, but I think even filling them with Mexican fans, because there is such a huge influence from the Mexican culture in our western part of the States. I think if you give them home games there, it's just like having home games in their country. I think that's
true.
It's going to be done tastefully enough to where they can try to swing some of those. Obviously, that's a lot of teams, so it's not going to be fair, I think, for all of them. And you don't want all your East Coast teams having to travel all the way over to the West Coast if their group is like Club Azul, and then you're playing like SKC and San Jose, and you're like, I got to travel all the way over there for 3 of my matches. But over this month, that gives you some flexibility as to where you can have games. So Texas seems like a good spot to have a lot of the Mexican teams, just because of the centralized location and the Mexican influence that it has. It'd be interesting to see, like, I know Ernan watches Liga MX. It'd be interesting to see like some perspectives from people that watch the Mexican League. So maybe we can find somebody that has that perspective too, that watches the Mexican League.
Well, now that I have YouTube TV and I have Unimas on there, I could watch some Liga MX. I know Fox has the English rights, but I think Unimas plays the Spanish rights, so I'd still be able to.
TUDN plays some too.
Yeah, I don't have that one, unfortunately.
Okay. But man, this is massive. I think Andrew Wiebe wrote a really nice column from MLS. If you want to go read on that, it's fantastic. Just his thoughts, and like you said, it's quirky, it's weird, it's funky, it's Concacaf.
But like you said, this could change how it is overseas too. Yeah. Like if this thing prints money, are you kidding me? That Europe will be like, whoa, what are we missing here?
Mm-hmm. It's their stupid Super League idea in 1 month, 1.5 months, like 90 days, 80 days, whatever you needed. It would just be a matter of if, Premier League and Bundesliga and them wanted to take that pause. So who knows at this point? But if they got a cut of the share, they probably wouldn't care anyway. So
yeah. All right, let's get to some of the results here. I don't think we're going to read every result, just because we talked so much about.
Let's go through. Why don't we do? And this sucks for the lower teams, but why don't we go through like the playoff teams right now? And kind of like, because we're getting into like the playoff push.
Yeah. Well, if you in the Eastern Conference, that'd be almost every team.
Okay. So like every team in the East and like the 3 teams in the West.
But yeah, so let's look at it. Okay. So right now, as we stand, New England Revolution in first place in the East. That's not changing. Okay. I guarantee that is not changing this season.
Should we put that down? Write it down on permanent marker.
They are going to win. They are going to win the Supporter Shield. Guarantee it. Okay.
All right. Hold on. Let me write that down.
Write it down.
Okay. I wrote it down.
Did you really?
No, I didn't. I licked my fingers.
I didn't see what you're doing.
I don't know why I did that. I don't know why.
Nashville in second with 41 points. So they're 15 behind New England. 2 games less played, though. So they could get as much as within 9 of New England. NYCFC in third with 38 points, and Orlando in fourth with 38 points. So those are your home team games, okay? The ones that would get home field advantage right now. In fifth is Montreal, who beat Orlando 4-2, right?
Soundly, yeah.
This with Nani red card.
Yeah, that was
midweek. Atlanta in 6th with 36 points. And Philadelphia in 7th with 35 points. They also beat Orlando over the weekend, 3-1.
Who hasn't beaten Orlando lately?
Recently? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, their form recently.
Columbus hasn't. Columbus didn't beat them.
Yeah, that's true. Here's Orlando's form recently. A draw against Miami, a win against Columbus, 3-0 loss to Atlanta, 4-2 loss to Montreal, and 3-1 loss to Philly.
Yikes.
Yeah. Especially when you look at... So, since Gonzalo Pineda took over Atlanta United, they lost their first game, which was Nashville, 2-0. Mm-hmm. Then that was his first game in charge. He was appointed 2 weeks before that. Atlanta beat Orlando 3-0. They beat Cincinnati 4-0. And they beat DC United 3-2. So, Atlanta on the up here. Joseph Martinez, top team goal scorer with 9 goals. Remember, there was a time where he was not scoring like at all this season.
Yeah.
DC United's in 8th place with 34 points. Miami in 9th with 32 points. Columbus in 10th with 31. And that's it. That's probably your chances for playoffs, as we continue to say throughout this time here. Because if you look at Red Bulls with 26 points, Chicago with 23, Cincy with 20, Toronto with 18, they don't have enough juice, I don't think, to get them.
No.
And I think Columbus probably doesn't have a shot that much right now. Miami has an outside chance because they were up there and then got knocked back out again. But I'm drawing the line at 10. I'm saying Columbus on up can have a shot at playoffs.
Yeah.
We got what? Columbus has played 26 games.
8 games left.
They got 8 games left.
We're all into our final 10 games except for Red Bull, who have only played 23.
Yeah, they have 11.
If they strung together some games, Red Bull could get back in it. But I think what you said, out of the bunch of, below the 7th spot, they look like the least likely to even touch a run. So I think if you're looking at teams, you're right. I think Columbus might be the cutoff because again, we always say this, but if Columbus got hot at the right time, they could put together a strand of games to make it into the playoffs. And then once you get in the playoffs, you can do anything you really want. But yeah, I don't like the chances for anybody below Columbus.
You know what I saw at the Orioles-Phillies game?
Columbus Crew tears. Were they crying?
Saw an Oriole fan with the Oriole hat and a 2008 style Columbus Crew jersey.
That's interesting.
The old MLS logo with the boot kicking the ball and the old 3-minute work hard hat Crew logo. I talked to him too. I said, "Hey, nice Crew jersey." He gave me a little fist bump. So
he's probably like, "What's that? What are you talking about?"
Yeah, that would have been funny. Like,
this was from I thought this was an Orioles throwback.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting as we're talking about the Crew. Because not something you see a lot. And especially Columbus has no ties to Baltimore, so I really had no idea what was going on there, but it was interesting. Western Conference. Let's look there real quick. Kansas City in first with 46 points. They've played one more game than Seattle. Seattle in second with 45 points. They're also in a Leagues Cup final. Seattle just continues to be a model franchise is the way I want to word that. Model franchise. They might win the West Conference and they could win Leagues Cup.
Yeah.
And God, I hope they do so we don't have to keep hearing how no MLS teams won Leagues Cup by the time we get to that too. But they'll probably change it to say in the modern Leagues Cup. Nobody has one. But just a model franchise with how they're run and always consistently good. So envious. Colorado in third with 44 points. And LA in fourth with 38 points. LA's kind of fallen down the wayside a bit. But I think they'll ultimately be okay. Portland Timbers. So it's your home games as it stands right now. Portland Timbers all the way up to fifth now with 37 points. RSL in sixth with 36 points. And Minnesota in 7th, 34 points. They just beat LA Galaxy 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
And Portland beat LAFC. Was that 3-1 as well? Were they both 3-1, or am I thinking one's 3-0, one's 3-1? Let me check that real quick. Timbers won 2-1. My apologies. And Galaxy lost 3-0 to Minnesota.
Galaxy are
they struggled, but they've Chicharito has been out, right?
He's coming back soon, supposedly.
We should be good to go for playoffs, and I think that's all you need to worry about. Yeah. If they can get into the playoffs, I think LA Galaxy can be dangerous with a healthy Chicharito. We saw how they were playing at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, but they've got to defend. That is one thing. They just don't defend, and that is a huge thing because you're going to be on the road. You can't give up goals. I think they're going to be on the road the way that they're playing. Mm-hmm. If you're going to be on the road, that's why that 4 spot's so crucial. They need to be in that top half because if they have to play on the road again with that defense, they've given up 40 goals, which is tied with Chicago Fire and Austin. So that's how bad it's been. They just don't stand a chance. They'll just get absolutely torched on the road in a playoff game. So staying at home with Chicharito getting healthy and staying healthy, that's going to be,
that's their path.
Factor.
That's their path to winning.
Yep. So top 4 spot is needed but again, they're going to have to play those top 4, one of the top 3 teams. If they stay in that 4th spot in an away game, I just don't have confidence that they're going to be able to defend anybody.
LAFC in 8th place with 33 points, Vancouver in 9th with 30 points, San Jose in 10th with 30 points, and that's where I'll draw the line again.
Mm.
Dallas in 11th with 27 points, Houston in 12th with 26, and Austin in 13th with 19 points. They're only 1 point above Toronto.
Hey, Toronto's coming back in that wooden. They don't want that damn wooden spoon.
No, they don't.
No wooden spoon for them. Austin, you've got to get that your first year. That's just it's like a token,
rite of passage,
right? Yeah, it's like here's a nice wooden spoon for your hard work and dedication. I'm sure they can decorate it to be green or black or whatever you want it to be.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about Austin, who had a 3-1 lead over San Jose, and San Jose comes storming back and win 4-3 in a crazy game that was, I think, Saturday. Yes. I was watching that game, and that was just insane. Just an insane game. They're missing Matt Beasler. They don't have the depth of defense, and I think that's their issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for sure Stuver was great at the beginning of the year. I think he's fallen off a bit lately, making some errors or not making saves that I think he should make.
And he tried to fight the whole San Jose team, I think. So I don't know what happened. It was like a dust-up after one of the goals that San Jose scored. And frustrations.
Yeah. That was, I think, one of the players pushed him or whatever to try to get the ball back so they could keep going or something. Yeah, it became this big thing.
The tempers are flaring. Alex Ring got two yellow cards too over the last. I mean,
he got it. Yeah, he scored 2 goals and he gets a red card.
I think because the first time he got it was SKC, and they were playing pretty well.
That was back when they were doing well. That was like beginning of the season. They were doing really well, and that they fell apart after that. That was it.
They did, yeah. And I think they said back then that it had been like 6 or 7 seasons since he's been shown a red at all. And I think now he's got 2 in the same year. So I know he's got 2 in the same year now. So a lot of frustration, it seems.
Yeah, that red card was in the 65th minute.
Mm-hmm.
After they had already given up the lead at that point, and at that point it just wasn't. They weren't able to get back into it. Then San Jose had lost 4-3 to RSL. This is what we talked about when we were previewing them. They can win 4-3. They can lose 4-3. That's all she wrote about San Jose, right? I mean.
They did it right there within a span of a week. To show you exactly who they are.
Their true colors there. 10th place. They're 4 points out of a playoff spot, which is not bad, but Minnesota has a game in hand on them, so we'll see how that goes.
It's tight right there.
Yeah. What were some other big results here? RSL beating Seattle was another big one.
RSL looked good. Krylock looked really good.
Yeah.
And again, I think RSL, I think Colorado Rapids were teams that I think people wanted to write off, especially RSL because they're going through that whole rebranding and that issues that they had with
the sale and everything.
Yeah. And their owner being an absolute,
Yeah.
But and even Vancouver now, because all the bottom teams have really struggled pushing Vancouver up into ninth. I mean, those are teams that like nobody. Vancouver, RSL, really they got written off, and then Colorado. I think people thought they were going to be playoff team. I didn't think many people thought that they were going to be this good, and they've kind of struggled grabbing wins here towards this latter half. But I think they're a team that can play defensively. So I think when they do get into a playoff situation, I think that they can defend pretty well. So I think that'll help them out in the long run. It'll be a matter of if they can score goals and complete those wins and grab points. So
Portland beating LAFC was big. I mean, they sit above them in the table, but it was also just something that they were only a point above LAFC before that game, and now they're 4 points above them.
I did some math.
Closing in on LA Galaxy now.
I did some crazy math. Since Sebastian Blanco's returned, they average 1.75 points a game. And if you kind of look at the trend where that would put them right now, they're up there in the top 3 in the East. If you looked over an average of a long season, that's how good they've been with Sebastian. And it's not like it's been like 6 games. I think it's been like 16 games. So to get that many points over a stretch of those 16 matches where Sebastian's been healthy, and he's only started, I think, 14 or 15 of them. I mean, he's changes that team big time. And I think that that's shown just how good they've been. So.
Toronto beat Nashville. That was a pretty big one.
Yeah.
This was
big for Toronto.
Huge for Toronto. So Teldo coming up big, whipping a ball in that Omar Gonzalez gets his head on and gets it into the back of the net. So that was big for Soteldo, who hasn't made the impact I think people thought he would at this point, but also Toronto's just been so bad that you can't really put that on him. But just good to see that ball that he puts in 79th minute. Bad for Nashville, but this is MLS. This happens, right? Yeah. Like you can't say much about it. They're still second place in the East. They weren't really pressing for first place, honestly. So if they can finish the season at second or third, that's a successful season for Nashville.
3 losses and their second playoff berth as a second-year expansion team. I was listening to Jamie Watson, who we had on that Nashville game. He was talking with Andrew Wiebe in their power rankings, and he made a really good point. He said, if you would have said, and Jamie's really great at these. I love when he does these. He goes, and I think it's a lot of times because Nashville fans want the reward right now, where I think you're going to get it. It's just a matter of like, this team is still kind of a work in progress. And, I think they do have what it takes. They have a roster to compete with for MLS Cup this year. But I don't think they're quite there yet. I don't think they're as good as New England, but they're there. They're on the cusp. And that's amazing because, like they alluded to in the Power Ranking show, they talked about, well, there's 2 particular teams that were expansion teams that aren't even in the Power 10 anymore. And I think they were alluding to Orlando and Miami. And they said, with Nashville, like they've just enjoyed success, and all due in part to how good Walker Zimmerman's been. Like, I think Jamie said that I think it's like 0.75 goals a game since he's been in the lineup, which is absolutely nuts. And the fact they've only lost 3 matches and they only ever lose when they're on the road is just like, and they're going to get home field. So they're a team that, man, this is a big loss for them to lose to Toronto, but I think it was coming, and I think they're a team that'll bounce back from it and be fine.
Yeah. Oh, they played spoiler last year, ruining Toronto's season. Then, I think
second best team in the East.
I think they're dangerous enough where they could definitely knock off New England in a playoff.
That's what I was going to ask you. If you're looking at teams in the East, who knocks off New England?
Nashville can.
I think Atlanta can.
Atlanta can. This new Atlanta definitely can. Yeah. And I could see NYCFC pulling it off depending on how they are at that time. The NYCFC feel like they're a very streaky team.
Mm-hmm.
But I would really enjoy Nashville winning MLS Cup. I think it would be great, and I think it would be great. One, I'd love to see Dax get an MLS Cup because he's probably not going to be around too much longer with his age. So I don't know off the top of my head if he's won one before. I have to check, but
I don't think he has.
He's been bounced around so many teams that it's hard to keep track on if he has. He has 2 supporter shields and a Western Conference win, which was Dallas when they lost to the Rapids in MLS Cup. Connor Casey scoring, I believe, in that one. But it was... I would love to see Dax get one before he goes.
Yeah.
I think this team is just built right. And actually, so I just thought of that. Comparing to when he lost MLS Cup against the Rapids manager at the time was Gary Smith, who's the manager of Nashville right now. So, I mean, it's possible for them to go on that run and win it because he's an experienced MLS coach who has won MLS Cup. They have experienced MLS players with Dax McCarty and their strikers, and and they also just have other good accessory pieces. Walker Zimmerman in the back line, great MLS experience. But I mean, like Rondo Leal and all these players that kind of help fit and mold this team into a really dominant team. And they remind me of Atlanta from when Atlanta won MLS Cup that year. Not saying like the way they play or anything, but if they win it in their second year, that'd be crazy. And like you said, 2 years in a row in the playoffs, after all the attention was on Miami when they entered the league at the same time, is amazing. And one thing I want to point out, Miami, the best team in the Eastern Conference, according to some people, lose to the Red Bulls 4-0.
Some people,
weekend.
It was
Caleb Porter.
Yeah, it was Caleb Porter. I mean, they are better than Columbus, so maybe he doesn't.
Yeah, they were on a streak too. They were on a hot streak for a moment where they went. I have it right here. They were
unbeaten and
they had 3 straight wins, and they had a draw with Orlando before that, but they beat Cincinnati, they beat Crew, and they beat Toronto. But those are 3 bad teams.
Yeah.
So how good are they actually? And I think, they definitely turned it around from where they were before. And they have a shot for the playoffs, which is all you can ask for after their awful start. But I don't know. Red Bulls beating them 4-0 is just kind of this absurd,
that's
very
unsettling.
Absurd thing.
Yeah, that's not a scoreline that you have when you're
especially it's in
10
Miami,
games away from ending the season, looking for a playoff push, and a 4-0 loss in Miami to a Red Bull team that has lacked inspiration lately. Yeah, that's tough. That's really tough. But I'm looking. So sorry, this is a complete tangent. But I was looking at the average attendance. Do you know that Philadelphia is it Philly? No, Atlanta United. Their average attendance is 44,000. The next highest is
Seattle with 22.
Yes. What?
Are you on FB Ref?
Yes, I am.
That's where I'm on.
Yeah, I love FB Ref. It's great. If you guys don't use FB Ref, it's great.
I didn't know it was by the same people that did Baseball Reference.
Yes.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I've always used it. I used it with our previews and stuff. It's great. And another interesting stat. I'm sorry, I'm on random tangent because I'm looking at FB Ref. Expected goals against Nashville 22.2. That's absurd because the next one I think is NYCFC at 24.8, which is bonkers. If then that's really the only one within range of them. The next are 4 or 5 away, 28.
Mm-hmm.
But that's crazy how well those two have defended, and NYCFC can score much better than Nashville has. So Castellanos has been good, and I know that Thiago has been really good since they brought him over. But Hani Mukhtar and CJ Sapong have been good for Nashville. So those are 2 really good teams. I think you're right, Jordan. I think if I had to pick 3 teams, it would be Nashville, NYCFC, and Atlanta to dethrone
The thing is, though, we still have a month and a half. November 7th is the last day. So there will be some teams that will still ebb and flow with their streakiness. Because, look, that's what MLS is going to be about. When we get to that's what playoffs are about. When you get to the playoffs, it's going to be about what team can catch fire and go on. And last year, it was Columbus Crew.
Yeah.
They came out of nowhere. People, I mean, like they weren't the top two in the East. So I'm kind of excited to see what can happen here. If Gonzalo Pineda wins MLS Cup for Atlanta, he's like instant legend, right?
Yeah.
Turning the season around.
Yeah, he'll go coach like the U.S. men's national team. It'll be nuts.
Did you see too that I saw the Final Third guy share this, but he had the idea of having fans show up to training today, and they were waving flags, and they were good atmosphere. Like, it seems like a 180 from Heinze being like, you can't even drink water, to like this guy who's like, let's bring the fans into it. Let's get this going. And he learned from Schmetzer at Seattle, and it's just it was the perfect hire. And I think that the hope for them is that with him being not like a Frank de Boer or a Tata Martino or a Gabriel Heinze, where they're focused on probably launching to another club after this, I could see him being a Schmetzer type that stays at Atlanta for 3 or 4 years or longer. And if it works out, let me just qualify that so people don't come back like next year if something happens and say you were wrong. But I was saying, if it works out, if he gets the results, the atmosphere there with the way he's building around, like I said, it's not like this toxic locker room, I feel like, with Pineda there. And I think if that happens, I don't know where else he would want to go anyway. Like, Atlanta is a huge club in America with how much fans, like you said, 44,000 average.
Right.
They've already have a history of winning trophies. Like, I could see, he's Mexican, so I could see maybe he would want to go to a Mexico team at some point. But if they're going to be playing in the Leagues Cup all the time, like, he could make his name for himself there. Like, I don't know. I think that you could be a legend at Atlanta if you can nail down that job and bring them more than just that 2018 MLS Cup. Because, look, Atlanta sports teams are not knocking down the door really to win trophies anytime. So if you can become the number one show in town winning trophies, I think you're set, man. Yeah,
they're the only team that can fill that stadium.
Yeah.
It's sad, but like all the sports teams in Atlanta are known for tanking, and you can watch it right now live. Atlanta's tanking.
Braves are doing well, though.
Yeah, they're doing all right, but they've been known to not.
They're winning in the NL East, which is like they're just above 500, right?
Yeah, it's like but no, I agree. I think that, and they even said, I know they had some guys on from Atlanta's podcast and different writers where they've said that the atmosphere has even changed, where the players enjoy coming to work, and how many of us like our jobs better when we can go in and enjoy what we do. It's easier to work. It's probably going to perform better, obviously. But when you're showing up and you can't even drink water at the water cooler, how difficult can that become? And that's what it was with Atlanta. And Jordan and I can be the first ones to say we were really hard on Atlanta because we thought, I mean, without this, like you said, if this had gone somewhere else and they'd have hired like a Chris Armas or something like that, something completely out of there on the left field who, they didn't have very many options. The fact that they just dug up Pineda was, unbelievable signing for them and an unbelievable change. Like their best signing of the year, I thought, was Thiago Silva. Not Thiago Silva. That's wrong. Is that right? No, Sosa. Sorry, Thiago Sosa. I was like, why is we just did stoppage time. So Thiago Sosa, thought he was the best signing, but I think Pineda, easily the best signing of the year.
Yeah, he's turned them around. It's just a whole different vibe. They're dangerous again. They're scoring goals again. It's just
Araujo's good. They're new.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's been
phenomenal.
He's part of the reason too. We can't say anything other than that too. Yeah. But let's look ahead, shall we?
Okay.
Well, I did want to say with the Orlando Philly game,
the derby did not.
Yeah, the Stateside derby. There were some questions on if the first goal should have stood for Philly. The ref's interpretation was, while Shabilko does cause a foul, Orlando gained full possession and started to attack, which then he was giving them the right of way, I guess, in that case. And then the play switches again and the Union score. But I think it probably should have just been a foul instead of that. But either way, Orlando needs to sort it out, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, their defense has gone completely – they just don't have answers.
I think Galese hasn't even been that sharp.
Yeah, Pedro's been hurt. Mason has been playing in goal, and when Pedro's been out, it's gotten ugly. And part of the defense, I mean, what people don't realize, a defender's job is to anchor that defense. I mean, a keeper's job is just to anchor it. And without him being there and without Janssen and AC playing together, it's been difficult. And, getting all these guys healthy again, like Oscar went with kind of like a 3 center back, 2 wing back kind of mode there with Uan. And I think that
he scored.
Yeah, he scored.
Great header.
Yeah, it worked. But when Nani got red, it was like, or not Nani, when they just aren't going well, that was another game. But when they're just not playing well.
But it hurt him for this game. I mean, if Nani is available in this game, I think you have a shot, I
guess. Maybe. Orlando's looked really bad creating anything. They kind of got like the cities to them where they can't score because they don't have like a 9 that's playing well. I mean, DK, when he's played, has not looked good. So
he's worn out. And Pato is still not back from the week 1 injury. I mean,
sounds like he won't. It just seems like it's this lingering, like he's older and we've always struggled with issues with leg issues. So I don't know if he'll ever get healthy, but now you got to rely on Tesho, and Tesho's very up and down. So
we got some midweek games here. Canadian Championship, Halifax versus Montreal at 5:00 on Wednesday. Miami versus Nashville at 7:30. Toronto versus York on another Canadian Championship game at 7:30. Chicago versus New England at 8:00. Red Bulls versus NYCFC for the Hudson River Derby at 8:00. That might be the rescheduled one. Is that the rescheduled one?
Yeah, I would think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
Club Leon versus Seattle in the League's Cup final in Vegas. ESPN2, Unimas, TEDN. Saturday, September 25th, Philadelphia gets to take on Pineda's Atlanta United. That'll be fun. That's on Univision, TEDN, and Twitter. Now I don't have to watch it on Twitter because I got Univision, so I should be able to watch it on that. That's at 3:30 at Subaru Park. New England versus Orlando. I mean, our two teams are going through it, man. 7:00 ESPN Plus. That's at Gillette Stadium where New England does not lose. So good luck there.
Yeah.
Crew versus Montreal at 7:30. DC United versus Cincinnati at 7:30. Colorado versus Toronto. I fully expect Colorado to win that game with how well they've been this season. That's at 8:00.
Especially in the mountains.
Yeah. Minnesota versus Houston at 8:00. NYCFC versus New York Red Bulls
at Yankee Stadium. Oh boy.
So I think the 22nd one was the makeup date from when we talked about, and this was just another scheduled one. But now they play each other twice in 3 days, which is amazing. San Jose versus LAFC at 10:00. Vancouver versus Dallas at 10:00, and Portland versus RSL at 10:30. Now that's a game.
That's a good one.
That is a game, man.
I'll tell you one thing. I actually think that you know what? I think we're wrong. I think NYCFC plays New York Red Bull. They're playing baseball, it seems, because they're playing
Yankee Stadium. Yeah.
We'll cover that on our other podcast.
On extra time, on extra innings. Yeah. Chicago versus Nashville on Sunday at 1:00. Nashville should have that one. SKC versus Seattle. Oh, that's a good one. 7:00 on FS1.
That'll be a blast.
That is a blast. And it's on Sunday at 7:00. It's not one of these 10:00 games. That's a good one.
That's a 9:00 time zone. What's going on? Why is it at 7?
Oh, it's in Kansas City. It's in Kansas City, yeah. So
6:00 game, sorry.
Yeah.
6:00 kick.
And then Houston Not Houston, sorry. Austin versus LA Galaxy at 9:30 on ESPN2. I fully expect Galaxy to probably win that game, but it's at Austin, and LA hasn't been in great form. Austin's not in great form. It could be looking at a 0-0, 1-1 type of thing.
Although I will say, come next week, aside from Atlanta, Philly, Orlando, New England, and then those games we mentioned that were big games, Portland and Salt Lake, and then Kansas City, Seattle. If some of these teams lose, those will be big stories next week because it looks like a lot of playoff teams playing teams or cusp teams playing teams that they should beat. So I guess we'll see.
And then we have some midweek games next week that we'll talk about then. But like I said, November 7th is the last day, and then we take a break for international games, and then the playoffs start November 20th, I think. So we're actually going to have a pretty lengthy break, but it's not really a break because we'll be covering the U.S. games. So,
and I'm sure we'll have people on for the playoffs. I don't know what we've decided.
Yeah, we'll have to try to get some previews going for that as well at some point. So
yeah, we get a matchup preview from some of the people that we know, or reach out to somebody that's new and at least match up. Maybe the home team will get the person on for the preview.
Oh yeah, that could be a good idea. Go home teams.
Fun. Yeah.
All right.
Well, something.
I think that about wraps us up. Logan,
hi.
We kind of teased the baseball show, but what are we working on here for the for people that maybe are interested in baseball but don't know some of the rules or stats?
Yeah, so we obviously started a new podcast because we don't have enough, and here it is on the bottom for all the visual learners. Jordan's got the nice sweatshirt. I still need to get mine because especially in October, it starts to cool down some in Florida, which is funny because it's like 70, but it's still funny. Extra Inning Show. We started a new podcast, and it's going to focus around baseball. We got a couple episodes up, one with Cooperstown, one where Jordan got to watch Shohei Ohtani, one where we kind of introduce some of our collectibles to the audience. That's more for the visuals. And then we also talked about just our history with baseball and how we grew up and grew to love the sport. This coming week, we are going to be recording probably an episode that'll drop, probably next week, where we're going to be talking about the rules and the weird terms that are used with baseball. We're talking runners in scoring position, WAR, not war like in World War II, but WAR, and all sorts of other quirky terms that baseball has. More of your sabermetrics and things, and then talking just the gist of baseball and getting people who might just be learning the sport or might not understand some of the stats and what they mean. We're going to get into a deep dive and let some of our listeners know what that's all about, and we'll have some fun learning on the way too, because I know there's some stuff that I'm still confused about by looking at some of it.
October is going to be fun. We have, World Cup qualifiers. We got MLS almost close to wrapping up. And then we will have the playoffs for MLB that we'll be covering over on Extra Innings. And then we'll be covering, the thick and furious period of October with Champions League, UEFA Champions League, and EPL games that'll be coming hot and heavy over on Stoppage Time Soccer Show. So there you go. Trying to cover everything for you here. So if you're interested in that, give it a listen. Because we'll be starting real proper soon with our preview of the wild cards once that's all set for that. And don't worry though, we'll still be bringing you this show as well. There's we got too much time on our hands as it is, so we're not going to be nothing's going to go down quality wise. I guess. But if you want to reach us on Twitter at Stateside Show, Instagram at Stateside Show, Facebook.com/Stateside Show, email us statesideshow@gmail.com if you want to, reach out to us for any reason here. But thanks for listening. Have a great rest of your week.